1955, 1962, 1966, and 1967 are especially sought after, thanks to unique design errors and limited mintage. These aren't just coins, they're windows into history, and if you find one, you might just be holding a small fortune. First up, we have the 1955 Great Britain half-crown Queen Elizabeth II coin. If you have one of these sitting in your collection or buried in a drawer, don't just toss it in with the rest of your loose change. This particular coin could be worth up to $43,000 in mint condition. Yes, you heard that correctly, $43,000. So, what makes the 1955 half-crown so special? Well, it's all about the historical context and a rare error that occurred during the minting process. When Queen Elizabeth II ascended to the throne in 1952, the UK was in the middle of a massive transition from pre-decimal currency to a new decimal system. The half-crown was one of the last coins to be minted before the full shift. Because of this, it's considered a transitional coin, and it was struck with both old and new designs, making it quite unique. Now, while the half-crown coins from this era are already interesting, the 1955 version stands out due to some very subtle but significant minting errors. These errors, though small, are what make the 1955 half-crown particularly valuable to collectors. It's these imperfections that add to the intrigue, and, for some, the coin's rarity only makes it more desirable. So, what kind of errors are we talking about? Well, minting errors can happen when the coin dies. Those metal stamps used to strike the design onto the coins are either worn down, damaged, or incorrectly aligned. When this happens, the resulting coins can have imperfect designs, like misaligned features or poor detail. In the case of the 1955 half-crown, some of the coins show flaws in the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. The engraving on her image can appear fuzzy or slightly distorted, which is a clear sign of a worn or damaged die. These kinds of imperfections can be quite difficult to spot unless you know what you're looking for, but they're exactly what collectors are after. These errors are more than just a quirk, they make the coin a rarity, and that rarity is what drives the price up. Collectors love coins with these kinds of flaws because they are one-of-a-kind pieces, almost like a small piece of history frozen in time. When a coin like the 1955 half-crown has imperfections in its design, it's a glimpse into the production process, something that's no longer possible to recreate. While many of the 1955 half-crowns were minted in relatively large quantities compared to other rare coins, the ones with these minting errors are incredibly limited. And that's what makes them so valuable today. Next up on our list is the 1962 Great Britain half-crown Queen Elizabeth II. This coin is another true gem for collectors, with an estimated value ranging from $20,000 to $22,000. If you're scratching your head and wondering, what makes this one so valuable? Well, it's all about rarity, historical significance, and a unique design that marks a pivotal time in Britain's currency history. Let's set the stage. In 1962, the United Kingdom was in the midst of a major shift. They were transitioning away from pre-decimal currency. The UK had been using a system that was based on pounds, shillings, and pence, but they were gradually moving toward a decimal system, which would be fully implemented by 1971. During this period of change, the half-crown coin, which had been in circulation for centuries, was one of the last coins minted under the old system. This transitional status makes the 1962 half-crown particularly valuable to collectors who appreciate the historical context. Now, here's the thing that makes the 1962 half-crown so rare: it was minted in smaller quantities compared to other coins from the same period. Due to the transition to decimalization, the production of the half-crown slowed down, and fewer were made than most other coins that were still in circulation at the time. This scarcity is one of the primary reasons that collectors go crazy for this coin. You see, rarity is a huge factor when it comes to valuing coins, and the 1962 half-crown has that in spades. But that's not all. The design of the 1962 half-crown is what really sets it apart. On the obverse, that's the front, we have the familiar portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, but it's the reverse, the back, where the coin really shines. The design features a detailed arrangement of symbols representing the four nations of the United Kingdom: the Rose of England, the Thistle of Scotland, the Shamrock of Ireland, and the Leek of Wales. This rich and symbolic design makes the coin even more special, especially for those who appreciate the intricate artwork and symbolism tied to Britain's history. But as with any rare and valuable coin, condition is everything. A well-preserved 1962 half-crown in mint condition can fetch that higher-end price, anywhere between $20,000 and $22,000, or even more in some cases. Coins that have been kept in near-perfect condition, without wear, scratches, or discoloration, are the ones that command the highest value in the market. These pristine coins are highly prized because they are considered to be in their original, unaltered state, making them much more desirable to collectors and investors alike. If you've got a 1962 half-crown tucked away somewhere, it's definitely worth taking a second look at it. Examine the condition carefully. If it's in great shape, it could very well be worth a small fortune. Some collectors even say that these coins, when in top condition, can increase in value over time. Now, let's talk about the 1966 Great Britain half-crown Queen Elizabeth II coin. This one is a real standout in the world of rare coins, with an estimated value of $38,000 depending on its condition. So, what's the deal with the 1966 half-crown? Why does it fetch such a high price? Let's break it down. To understand the value of this coin, we first need to dive into 1966 itself. It was a pivotal year in British currency history. It was one of the last years the half-crown was minted before the UK fully embraced the decimalisation process in 1971. For those unfamiliar with the term, decimalisation refers to the UK's shift from the old system of pounds, shillings, and pence to a new decimal currency system, where £1 is divided into 100 pence. This transition significantly impacted British coinage, and the half-crown, one of the most iconic pre-decimal coins, was soon phased out. In 1966, the half-crown had a short but interesting lifespan. As the UK was gearing up for decimalisation, many of the coins produced in the final years before the change were limited in number. This makes the 1966 half-crown especially rare. Fewer were minted in comparison to earlier versions, and its role as one of the final coins in the half-crown series only adds to its historical significance. But the rarity doesn't stop there. The 1966 half-crown is highly sought after because of its minting errors. Just like the 1955 half-crown, some 1966 coins feature subtle imperfections in the engraving or in the way the metal was struck during the minting process. These errors might not be immediately obvious to the untrained eye, but they're exactly the kinds of flaws collectors are looking for. Whether it's misaligned features, worn dies, or faint impressions, these minor imperfections can make a coin much more desirable. They're unique, and that's something that collectors cherish. Now, it's important to note that condition plays a big role in determining the value of the 1966 half-crown. A coin in mint or near mint condition is far more valuable than one that's been worn down through circulation. The fine details of the coin, like the Queen's portrait and the intricate designs on the reverse, should be sharp and clear. If you have a 1966 half-crown in excellent shape, no scratches, no discoloration, it could be worth a small fortune, possibly tens of thousands of dollars. In fact, when you find a pristine version of this coin, collectors often pay a premium. A well-preserved 1966 half-crown can sell for up to $38,000 in perfect condition. So, if you happen to find one of these coins tucked away in your collection or in your spare change, don't just write it off as just another coin. You could be holding onto a real treasure. Ultimately, it's the combination of the coin's historical context, its relatively low mintage, and those small yet significant minting errors that give the 1966 half-crown its high value. And last, but certainly not least, we have the 1967 Great Britain half-crown Queen Elizabeth II coin. This one is the crown jewel of the set, taking the top spot in terms of value, with some coins selling for as much as $50,000. Now, you're probably wondering, why is this coin so valuable? Let's dive in. The 1967 half-crown, like the others we've talked about, represents a transitional period in British currency. It was one of the last half-crowns minted before the UK fully embraced the decimal system. By 1971, the UK had switched to a new currency structure, leaving behind the old system of pounds, shillings, and pence. So, the 1967 half-crown is one of the final coins in a long-standing tradition of British currency, and that alone makes it incredibly special. But what makes the 1967 half-crown extremely rare and highly valuable is that only a limited number were ever minted. This scarcity is a huge factor when it comes to determining its worth. Fewer coins mean that they are harder to find, which, in the world of coin collecting, makes them much more desirable. As one of the last of its kind, it has a kind of historical significance that drives up its value among collectors. In addition to its rarity, the 1967 half-crown often features some interesting minting errors, like off-center strikes or die cracks. These imperfections, while not immediately noticeable to everyone, are the exact types of flaws that make coins more collectible. An off-center strike, for example, happens when the metal blank isn't perfectly aligned in the press, resulting in an uneven design. Die cracks can appear when the dies used to strike the coin become worn or damaged, leaving a visible crack in the design. These types of minting errors are exactly what collectors and investors are after. When you find a coin with a distinctive imperfection, it adds to the coin's uniqueness and, in turn, its value. Coins with such flaws are often one of a kind, which is what makes them highly sought after in the coin market. So, if you happen to stumble upon a 1967 half-crown in your collection, at a flea market, or even in a box of old change, don't just toss it aside, it could be worth a lot more than you think. If you're lucky enough to find a pristine 1967 half-crown or one with noticeable minting errors, you could be holding onto a rare and valuable piece of history. Coins like this are considered gems for collectors, and the $50,000 price tag on some of them isn't out of the question. It's the combination of its historical context, its limited mintage, and those minting imperfections that make the 1967 half-crown so valuable. If you find one, take a good look at it, you might just have a rare treasure on your hands. So, there you have it, 4 of the most expensive and rare half-crown coins from the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. Each of these coins has its own unique story, rich history, and specific errors that make them valuable to collectors around the world. If you've got one of these in your possession, you could be sitting on a small fortune. But even if you don't, these coins are a fascinating glimpse into the history of British currency and the royal family. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments if you've ever found any rare coins yourself. I'd love to hear about your collections. Until next time, happy hunting, and remember, every coin tells a story.